Yo, yo, thank you for joining us on the Stello Fello podcast. So glad that you're here. Here's how this thing works. I will either be on the show myself and I'll be reading a blog or talking about one that I just dropped, going back through that, or I will run across somebody in a podcast, or I'll read something, I'll see something, I'll meet somebody, or I know somebody, and I invite them onto the show to talk about one of those topics, whether it be faith, fashion, family, or fitness, which is supposed to be a little bit opposite there. It's supposed to be faith, family, fashion, and then fitness. Why? Because those are the order of the important things in my life. And because that's just how life works, right? Like, I love Jesus and I love my family, and then fashion is how we make our money, and then I like to go to the gym. And cool. So that's what we talk about here. Regardless, thank you for joining us. So glad you're here. If you have a comment, thought, suggestion, an argument, whatever it is that you'd like to share, you can reach me at stellofellow@gmail.com. And thanks again for joining the show. We will see you. Actually, I won't see you, but you will see this. If you don't see it, you can go watch it at stellofellow.com under podcasts, and you can watch the video there. So anyways, thanks for being here. Now it's working. What up, what up, what up? Welcome to Stello Fello Podcast. Glad you were here. I have been off the air. When I say off the air, I mean I haven't been putting anything on my website or inside of the platforms that I use for my podcast for a little over 2 years. Why? Because at one point I felt like I've said everything I have to say right now. So I spent a good amount of time. I don't know how many blogs I wrote or podcasts that I did. I wrote a lot more than I did talk. But after putting out, it was like 50 something blogs that I wrote, and then sat down and had been using that as it started out, called it the Journal of a Former Pastor, and using that as a journal of processing all that had happened while I was in the church world, working professionally. And then, struggling and fun, maybe not struggling, but sitting down and saying, hey, there are all these things that I do. Like, I was a pastor, so I'm going to talk about faith. Not because I am no longer professionally employed, but I still love Jesus. I still love the church. I still have, I still use the gifts that I had there. I don't get paid for it. I don't show up there. But still, it's like I had things that I had to say that I had no place to say it. So I was saying that, and then talked about, like, okay, there's a faith aspect to my life. That's the wrong way to say it. I want to talk about faith. I want to talk, and then I put everything with an F. So I'm going to talk about faith. I'm going to talk about family. Why? Because I'm a dad and I'm a husband, and that takes a lot of my time and my effort. And I like that. So I'm going to share my experience of those things. We're going to talk about fashion. Why? Because we own a fashion business and it affects me and what I wear. We're going to talk about fitness. Why? Because I'm a personal trainer and I've been in the gym for 25 plus years with the consistent basis on, hey, like, how do you stay fit? And you're now in your 40s. How do you do that? How do you navigate that? What do you eat? What do you do? How do you work out? How do you deal with the fact that now you're getting older and things hurt a lot more than they did when you were 25? And how do you navigate approaching, what are your goals as a 41-year-old instead of a 25-year-old or a 17-year-old or whatever old you are in doing what you're doing? And so all of those things I'm writing about and putting those on paper and talking about those and looking for interviews and that all led to, okay, now I kind of had said everything I needed to say from the faith aspect or wanted to say at that moment. And then had paused my process of thinking. And when I say process of thinking, I mean the way that I generate content is by reading, watching, listening, and then joining the conversation. I'm going to start my own conversation. I have all this to say, and then it's going to keep going. So the way that I continue to have creativity and thought about responding or saying is to be a part of a conversation. And that process paused for me. Like, COVID hit and I stopped. Like, I used to go to the gym, hop on the treadmill, and immediately put a podcast in. And so the first 20 minutes of my day on my, hey, okay, like, kids are dropped off, they're at school, I'm going to start my work day. It starts like this. That's how it would begin. And that would automatically churn thought process that then would lead to, okay, what books am I reading? And then what conversation am I a part of that I am talking about? I stopped doing that. And then equipment wise, house wise, like everything just went crazy. Right. And we started doing other things. I started a personal training business during that time. I started doing some construction stuff and like landscaping things. And that then took my time. And so then I look up and it's 25 months later and I'm here I was on this road and then it just paused. And so picking that back up and going, okay, looking at those 4 buckets that I was writing in, which one had the most interaction? Who, like, audience wise, who's watching stuff? What am I hearing back from? What are people talking about? And there wasn't a lot of. I mean, there was a couple of blogs and podcasts in the faith bucket that people wanted to talk about or read or respond to, and but I wrote a lot there, and it was like there were a couple hits on it. Not you keep going on that if you want, keep running that track. And I generated some cool things that were going on. I was writing for some different websites and sending stuff, and so that was cool. But at the same time, I was like, I don't know if we'll keep running down that track or not. Not because I don't love Jesus or the church or faith or the scriptures or what I had to say there, but kind of out of things to say. Kind of like that's what I think. This is my process. Here it is. If you want to talk about it, that's great. But I don't know that I have anything else to add to that. Family wise, there's a ton of interaction there. So there's a ton to be said about being a dad, especially raising a teenage daughter, raising almost now a teenage son, and then just marriage in general. I think there's a ton to be said about the family unit, and then a man's role in the family unit and being a dad. So we're going to focus a lot there. Talk some about fitness, probably just as it intertwines with that stuff. Fashion, probably not so much. So I'm going to let Ryan handle that. Why? Because I now wear, I always have worn what I wore, but it's like hoodies, beanies, and cowboy hats. So most people don't mix those together, but I do. So you probably don't want my advice on fashion, and that's totally fine. I'm good with that. So, anyways, welcome back to the Stello Fello podcast. We are going to rebrand it and call it something else, probably like Dads and Cowboy Hats, or something that's a little more in line with, oh, this is what we're talking about. And so we went with Stello Fello because of Stello Style. If you want to check that out, Stello Style, Stello_style on Instagram, StelloStyle.com on the website. And then you can find the other platforms from there. That is our, and I say I mean, I support my wife in doing that business and do everything I can, but she brings all content and expertise to it because she's really good at it. And I am doing this, pointing that hat, because that's just a lot of fun. So anyways, we're going to rebrand and talk a lot about the family part of that family bucket from the Stello Fello podcast. And that first, just what's out there? What are people? That was me casting a line. It wasn't like a whip. It was a line cast. What's there as we're fishing, catching more fish in that pond. So we're going to fish that pond a lot more than the other ponds. So anyways, thanks for jumping back in. Hope to see you soon. Like, share, subscribe. This is me typing on nothing, but I have this that you can type on. Thanks for joining us. Episode 1C. C because episode 1A would have been the Bush League Sports Show. 1B would have been Stello Fello Podcast. 1C is now Cowboy Hat Dad. All right. Peace out.